Right. So, hello everyone and good morning. There's quite a large amount of you joined now, so I think we can get going. Welcome to the Sintali sales training for Edge Experts. I think quite a few of you will have spoken to me before, but my name is Julia and I am on the commercial team at Sintali. I'm joined today by my colleague Andy, who is also on the sales team at Sintali, and he's going to be supporting me with questions throughout the webinar. So whilst we are waiting for the last remaining people to join, I wanted to go through some housekeeping. I've enabled the chat box as well as the Q&A. So if you do have questions, please do write them in there. We'll have some time at the end to go through those questions as well. And any questions that we aren't able to get to or aren't able to answer, we will email out to you post-session. We will also be recording the webinar today and sending it out to all of you. So if you do need to jump off for whatever reason, we will be sending out the recording after the session along with the slides. And again, for those of you who are new, this is the first webinar that you've joined us for. I thought I'd give a quick introduction. So Sintali is an environmental verification company, one of the global certification providers of the EDGE Green Building Standard. And EDGE certification makes up maybe 80% of what we do as a company. So we're really sort of invested in growing Edge in the market and working with you as Edge experts, as Edge auditors to grow Edge across the globe. We're based in the UK. We have some presence in India as well. And we've worked in over 90 countries providing Edge certification and have issued over 260,000 Edge certificates. And those are some up-to-date numbers. So yeah, we're really kind of here to talk about Edge and how to grow the market more. So what are our objectives today? Our goal today is to show you how to generate more leads, turn these leads into meaningful conversations, and ultimately close more deals. So whether you are a new Edge expert and want to get started in growing an Edge business, or whether you've got some experience and a small pipeline but want to grow that, we're hoping that this webinar will be relevant for all of you. And we're going to give you some practical ideas that you can start using right away to grow your business. So let's start with the mindset shift. Why do we need to generate leads? So when a market is new, like Edge, what tends to happen is that everyone goes after the same handful of 4 or 5 companies who already know about Edge and are already doing Edge certification. So it's like everybody crowding round one tiny pie and fighting over the very few slices. And while it can be easier to talk to people who are already aware of Edge, it's also important to think about the fact that most organizations aren't doing anything, and most organizations do not know what Edge certification is. So instead of eating the pie, we need to grow the pie. As I said, the market for Edge is still in early stages globally, and expecting lots of companies to come to you directly and ask for Edge expert services is still quite unlikely to happen. This gives us a unique opportunity to create a demand rather than just compete for those existing clients. So that's where your opportunity is. Most companies aren't doing any kind of green building certification right now. Your job as an Edge expert is not just to find those who already know, it's to go out, educate the market, and create new demand. And that is the heart of sort of where you can really grow your Edge business. So let's talk numbers. You've probably heard of a sales funnel before. So you start with a big pool of leads. Then some of these turn into meetings, a few into proposals, and then maybe a couple into deals. So here's an example. You get 20 leads, 5 might turn into meetings, 2 could lead into a proposal, but only 1 deal is closed. And that might take you 6 months to close that final deal, right? So lead generation is a numbers game. You've got to reach out to a lot of people. At Sintali, in our last financial year, our leads to 1 deal conversion was 36% success. So essentially, only a third of our leads then went on to be a 1 deal. So success for us and growing our market is increasing the number of leads. Lead generation is also about quality. So it's not just numbers. Numbers plays a huge role, but it's also about quality and not just blasting emails out into the void and hoping to hear something back. So thinking about how we generate not just a number of leads, but leads that are of quality. So I've identified 5 key steps to developing a lead generation strategy. And these are understanding who your clients are, understanding the challenges that your clients face, targeting those clients, applying a market context, and reaching out. And we'll be going through these 5 steps today. So we all know what Edge is, but is it applicable and relevant to all clients? Probably not. We need to make sure that we have the right audience in place. So these are the profiles of organizations that have typically engaged in Edge certification and should be considered as targets to promote Edge to. So these are developers, asset owners, construction firms, as well as end users and tenants. So to be able to create a lead generation strategy, we really need to have a clear sense of who our target audience is, what problems they have, and how we can solve them, how we as consultants using Edge can solve their problems. So the first step is to understand the challenges clients face and how Edge offers a solution. So what problem is each of these key organizations trying to solve? I've put a couple of examples on the screen here. So companies might be looking for financing to remain competitive, to reduce their operational costs, or they might just be focused on selling their assets. So our role is understanding how certification can support them in their problems that they are trying to solve. Let's take a look at developers. Their top challenges are trying to attract investment, they need to meet regulatory requirements, and they want to sell or lease their buildings quickly. How can Edge offer a solution to each of these problems? So how can Edge attract investment? It does this through unlocking access to green financing, including preferential loan rates, green bonds, or any climate-focused investment funds. It also de-risks the project by aligning with regulatory and investor expectations. Let's take a look at our second problem. Can Edge help meet regulatory requirements? Yes, it ensures compliance or future-proofs a development against changing laws, and it provides certification-backed evidence of environmental performance. And then finally, Edge can help appeal to buyers and tenants through offering reduced utility bills and increasing the asset value, and then also using certification as a market differentiator, so using Edge as a sales tool to attract clients that also have their own ESG goals or are just interested in environmentally friendly buildings. Thinking on a second target group, asset owners. So their key challenges might be managing portfolio risk, reporting on ESG performance, or increasing an asset value. So again, let's take a look at how Edge can be offered as a solution. So with portfolio performance and risk management, Edge helps as it improves the energy and water efficiency, cutting operation costs, and it also helps mitigate stranded asset risk as regulations evolve. Again, Edge can help meet regulatory requirements by providing third-party verified data. It can be integrated into annual ESG reports, GRESB scoring, or any other sustainability disclosure. And it also strengthens investment grade green credentials. And then finally, problem 3, how does Edge help maintain and increase asset values? It does this as certified assets enjoy premium valuations and stronger resale value, and Edge is cost effective and scalable, giving it a strong return on investment for a larger portfolio. So the key sort of understanding your market is not just identifying the key players, the key people who are going to be interested in green building certification, but really thinking about their mindset, what are their challenges, and then why and how Edge would be applicable for them. I wanted to use some real life examples of clients that we at Sentalia have had and how Edge has been used by that specific client to help solve their problem. So WDP, it's in Romania, is a large warehouse developer. Their challenge, or the main issues that they were facing, was that they required investment for refurbishing existing buildings, but also they had a large number of properties across many different locations. What was their why? Why did they decide to go with Edge? Because it helped them unlock green financing, and it also made sense for the client because it was a fast certification process and they wanted to certify their properties as quickly as possible. What was the results then? They certified 48 warehouses across Romania. They completed the certification in 6 months, and then they secured over 350 million euros in financing from IFC and EBRD. So Edge was a key sort of player in helping them attract that investment and certifying many of those properties. Another example would be the Ascot Limited, which is a subsidiary of Capitaland, and they had a large portfolio of hotels and service departments across the globe. Their issue or their challenges is that they had a strict net zero target, but they found it difficult to create a streamlined approach because each of their asset owners, sort of each hotel had a different building owner, so it made it tricky to align a portfolio approach across all of their buildings in order to achieve that net zero target. Why did they go for Edge? Because the focus on the energy efficiency helped them reach their ESG target. They went for Edge because it could be applied across their entire portfolio and because it helped them unlock green financing as well. What were the results? They certified 38 properties over 13 different countries, and the Ascot is still working with us to certify many more. We've got many more in the pipeline. They used a portfolio approach, and sort of we worked with them to create a streamlined contracting method, so it was easier for each hotel to be introduced to us and get certified and have all the sort of resources in place to get the certification. And also it helped them unlock green finance. So in 2022, IFC partnered with Capitaland Ascot Trust to launch a sustainability linked loan with the criteria that the buildings must be Edge certified. So it helped them attract that investment, and also then that was a sort of measure that increased the popularity of Edge uptake across the different hotel owners. The key here, when you're thinking about lead generation, is to get into the mindset of the buyer to understand if Edge will be a good choice for them in terms of providing a solution to whatever issue it is that they are currently facing. Once you understand your typical audience, you understand their problems, it's about researching your market and who to contact. So before you reach out to a number of companies, make sure you take time to research. So ask yourself, what is the dominance of that type of company, whether that's a developer, asset owners, construction companies, what is the dominance of that type of company or client in the region? Are there lots of companies or a few key influential players in the market? If there are a few key players, who are they? Which companies have an existing green building system? So if you have a company that is influential in the region, but they have been using LEED for 20 years, it's unlikely they're going to switch to Edge unless there is a clear incentive for them to make that change. And then the final thing to think about when you've done some market research, you've identified the companies that might be suitable Edge targets, is to think about where did they get their information and resources from? Are they members of associations? Are they speaking at any kind of events? Who have they worked with in the past? This is important because you need to brainstorm how to get in front of those clients in order to make those connections and start those conversations. It isn't just about finding the right fit, but it's also about finding the external factors that can make or break markets. So there may be a target audience that you wouldn't expect, but actually play an important role in growing the market for Edge. There are some key players that are involved in growing Edge in the market. These are governments, banks, industry bodies. So the next step into sort of developing a market generation strategy is to conduct some market research. So what is happening around you and what is the market currently like? So this will be different country to country and city to city, taking a look at things like, are there any government incentives? Are there any financial incentives? Is there a particular sector that is getting a lot of investment? And those can be good starting points. So the aim is to make progress without too much effort. So tapping into what is happening and why can help you. And things like banks and trade associations, construction associations should also be considered as sales targets as well. If they are aware of Edge and are interested in sort of whether that's a bank providing a green loan, or whether that's a construction chamber sort of providing more advice for its clients, that can also be a good sales target as well to promote your services too. So let's take a look at the example of a market where external factors have driven growth of Edge. Colombia is a market where uptake of Edge has grown rapidly. So green buildings have accelerated from 0 to 20% between 2018 and 2021. As of April 2025, the nation has 20 million square meters of Edge certified green space, and this includes 200,000 green homes. And there are three key reasons why Edge has grown in Colombia. First, the government has provided tax incentives related to energy efficient buildings. Secondly, 5 major banks offer green finance products for Edge. And then finally, Camacol, which is a local construction chamber, are supporting clients through the Edge certification process and raising local market awareness. The key takeaway from this is that for you as an Edge expert, not only should you be researching the companies that you could reach out to, but it's also about doing some research into your own local market to see if there is any opportunity or external factors that could encourage uptake of Edge, or even if there are any players such as financial institutions, construction chambers, that you could partner with to raise awareness of Edge in your local market. So to summarize these couple of steps, how to develop that market strategy, understand who your target audience is, understand their problems, identify whether Edge can help them solve those problems, look at your market, and then see if there are dominant players in the industry that you can target, but also review other market factors that could help you increase your sales. Let's go through some tips and tricks on how you can research companies within the construction industry and identify which companies to reach out to. So here are some sort of practical tips that you can make your research phase more effective. So LinkedIn, looking up the companies, using filters like location and industry, but then also searching by job title. So perhaps you found a company, use LinkedIn to find that specific person that you can target, whether that's a sustainability manager, ESG analyst, sort of any sort of high level person that you don't want to just reach out to anyone. It has to be someone that's going to be engaged in taking the conversation forward. Using construction associations, so many publish member directories of people that are members or organizations that are members. So you could use that list and then go ahead and research that company and see if they're doing a green building strategy or whether they would be a good potential target. Also, construction associations often run events. Is that something that you can attend? And then get in front of those audiences to start having those conversations about Edge? Or even can you write some sort of advice around Edge certification in their newsletters and then attract a wider audience? Making sure that you're checking company websites, so looking at the About Us, the news section, look for their sustainability pages. Are they currently doing anything? Do they have a green building strategy? And then assessing whether it would be appropriate to reach out. Using green finance and public grant listings. So check if companies are recipients of green incentives, and then reach out to those to offer your services as well. You can use websites like hunter.io and apollo.io to find and verify email addresses as well for specific people to reach out to. Also looking at local events, looking at the speaker list and the panel guests as well. If you're at an event and there's someone from a company speaking, it's likely that they are a decision maker within their company, so they would be a good person to target Edge to. Looking at annual reports, so looking at a company's sustainability and ESG sections for language alignment and future plans, and then see whether you could offer your services to help them sort of align with their plans. And then finally, as well, looking at job boards. So if a company is hiring green building professionals, that's a clue that they are investing in this space. So might be worth reaching out to if they're obviously trying to work towards a goal, if they're hiring more people, and that could be a good target as well. So combining these sources gives you a much clearer picture of who you should be reaching out to, how to personalize your message, and where your Edge value proposition fits best. Once we know the companies to target, as well as the people, we need to develop a plan for the best way to reach out to those individuals and companies. Lead generation, I think, can be quite daunting. So here are some ideas that we've used to reach out to your targets, and I'll be sharing some sort of ideas and tips associated with each one. So again, reaching out through LinkedIn, attending events, hosting webinars or sending out email campaigns, partnering with associations or creation of content to raise awareness, as well as using your existing network. So with LinkedIn, first sort of key thing, use your posts and post regularly to help educate your market and stay top of mind when growing your network. So when someone, if they are looking for a service and they come to your LinkedIn page, they have a really clear sense of what it is that you do and what services you provide. Again, using LinkedIn to find companies and then finding specific people to target. What we found that works well with LinkedIn is making sure that you're connecting and reaching out to the most appropriate person, but also making your message personalized. So instead of just rushing in saying, hi, I do XYZ, it's all about me, taking a look at their page, taking a look at their role and saying, hi, I see that you're doing this ESG initiative. I see that you have expanded or you've got investment for some new refurbishment. Have you considered Edge? So project it onto them before offering your services. So that's kind of what we have found works well with LinkedIn. For events, if you can, secure speaking opportunities where possible. Don't just stick to green building events, but have a look at relevant sectors. So hospitality, ESG, green financing, housing, warehouse and logistics. So sort of take a look at the typologies on Edge, and if there is events that are sort of around those themes, take a look at those as well. Again, what we found that works quite well for events is going in with a goal. So I think it can be quite easy to attend an event, not really have a plan of what you're doing, and then just kind of flounder around and not really know who to talk to. Whereas if you go to an event, check the list of panel speakers. Are they appropriate Edge targets? And then go to that event with the intention of speaking to that specific person or that group of people in order to sort of increase the likelihood of leads coming for that. So whilst events are really good, I would say be quite specific with why you're going and who you're talking to, just to make sure that you're sort of not wasting time. With webinars, organizing webinars to bring potential leads to you is a really good way to kind of expand your network. So an email list of registered participants is also a lead list. If you are quite a small organization and you don't have a wider reach, inviting speakers from organizations with a good reach can help you expand your network, as well as using clients or spokespeople for added credibility. Or equally, again, if you have a smaller network that you want to expand on, co-hosting or sponsoring a webinar with a major or larger associations, like a real estate organization or a green building council, could be a nice way. Sort of you can help coordinate and run that webinar, but in return, you are speaking to a wider audience related to that association or green building council. So you get in front of more people and attract more leads from that. And again, this is what has really worked from our experience. I'll just give you an example. Sintali, we're still a smaller organization. When we partner with IFC or banks or other construction chambers, our reach is far better. We have a way higher participant list than if we just organize the webinar ourselves. So that's something, again, to think about. In a similar way, you could do something like an email campaign, reach out to an organization, offer to write some content as part of an email campaign for them, and then in return, you're accessing a wider audience. Key takeaway with email campaigns is make sure that there is a call to action. So if you are, writing a campaign about Edge, make sure there is an action for the client to do. So maybe that's signing up for to download a white paper, signing up to a webinar, a link to request a quote. So you've prepared all of that information for an email campaign. Make sure there is an action of something that the client can actually do in order to make the connection. Don't just like spend a lot of time writing a really long piece and then not seeing any feedback from that. And finally, partnering with associations. We've spoken about this a lot. This has really helped Sintali grow its market. If you are partnering with, whether that's like a financial institution, a construction agency, a green building council, make sure you establish regular connection and check-ins with clear milestones as well, and have a real understanding of how you can support their client. I'd like to give an example. So in the UK, there is a bank called Puma that offers green loans for UK buildings that are certifying with EDGE. We partnered with them to help raise awareness of EDGE. They built a really nice pipeline of their clients for us. And kind of the key takeaways that, so in the UK, the market for EDGE is still growing, and the key questions that we had from the clients were always the same. How does EDGE link to UK building codes? How does EDGE baseline link to the UK? How can it link to our energy performance certificates? So our feedback was preparing that information so it could support the clients, but we wouldn't know that unless we had those regular check-ins with the partnership organizations to understand the typical questions, the problems that they're having, and then our feedback was to go ahead and create that content from them. So if you are doing any kind of partnerships, make sure that you are listening to what that partner actually needs and then responding accordingly. So one of the sort of other things I wanted to discuss is also thinking about where each client is in their customer journey. So a customer journey usually happens in 3 stages. First is the awareness stage. So they've just discovered EDGE, or they're maybe hearing about green building certification for the first time. Your job here is to make them curious. Content like blog posts, webinars, short LinkedIn videos work really well. Versus the consideration stage. So now they know that EDGE exists, they might be starting to compare it, weighing up their options, comparing it with LEED or BREEAM. Here they need a bit more detail, so case studies, more technical one-pagers, and sort of clear comparisons. And then finally, the decision stage. So perhaps they're ready to make a call. What they need now is confidence in their decision. So think testimonials, cost benefit summary, maybe a direct consultation. I think here, if you attended our last webinar on how to prepare an EDGE expert proposal, I talked about that like risk analysis component. So perhaps if they're in the decision stage, you can offer that risk analysis to see whether it would be suitable for their building portfolio. Make sure it's easy for them to say yes. So obviously we've talked about understanding the client problems, how to reach out to clients. But what you also need to understand when talking to clients is where they are in their journey. And this helps you tailor your message and provide the right information at the right time. So for example, at the awareness stage, the basic thing they need to understand is what is EDGE. They don't need huge technical detail. They might not need a cost benefit at that stage. It wouldn't be to the next stage, the consideration stage, that those cost benefit analysis or more technical detail is provided. So also keep in mind when talking to clients, not just the who and the why, but also where are they in their customer journey. So I wanted to discuss success and failure. So the whole part of sales and lead generation is that there will be some successes, but there will also be some failures as well. So let's give an example of Sintali. One of our co-founders spent 2 months getting a webinar slot to pitch to a company with 1,500 assets. From that, she didn't get the client, but she got introduced to Microsoft Greece, had some conversations with them. They weren't interested in EDGE, but it led her to the technical manager of the biggest supermarket in Leeds, in Greece. And it was then that she won that deal with that supermarket. And that took 2 years to create. So the key here is it does take time. Be persistent, when she had this opportunity to present her portfolio approach to this company, she didn't think it would lead it to here, to this other company that was a supermarket. But just by making that connections, by making those initial steps, she was able to win a deal. So on the other side, when we were doing lead generation for Edge, we reached out to loads of companies like Walmart, Heineken, Amazon. From most, we had no response. We had a response from Kingfisher who said that the email wasn't relevant to them. And we've also had situations where we've called up a company and the office manager wouldn't connect us to the most appropriate person. So the kind of key takeaway is that it is a numbers game. You will have to send a lot of messages, but you will still get some wins, and to not be disheartened by the failures as well. I wanted to do a bit on sort of cold outreach and what to say when you're sending your first message and making that kind of cold email or LinkedIn message to a potential client. So when you're sending that first message, keep it short and clear. Make sure it's personal. So I saw your talk at this event. I noticed that you were aiming for net zero. So again, reflecting on the client, making sure that you've understood and done your research on the client, and then sort of understand and made that link to Edge, and then ended with a call to action. Can we speak next week? You can use a sort of simple tracker and make sure you follow up with your clients or your leads that you have reached out to. We typically reach out every 6 weeks. We try 3 times. If they've not responded after the 3rd time, then I will close the lead and I won't contact them again. But that's where having like an Excel sheet or something is really good, so you can keep track of when you last contacted them. Things that don't typically work or that we wouldn't recommend is using too much jargon or too much technical information, sending loads of attachments for them to read. Chances are they probably won't open them. Sending a message without a clear call to action, or sort of any sort of irrelevant content or negative comparisons to other green building standards. So I wanted to give an example, sort of an example message. So this one reads, I saw that your company is working on a new development in the region. Are you implementing any green building certification standards on your projects? I work on a World Bank green building program called Edge, which helps companies scale green buildings across all of their properties/developments. I think it could be a relevant tool for your company. Do you have availability next week to schedule a short call to discuss? So the first sentence, you can see that they've done their research, that there's a clear link to the Edge service that they've provided. They then go and explain what that link is. I work on the Edge Green Building program. I think it could be useful. But you notice at this stage, they haven't said, to achieve the Edge Green Building standard, you need to achieve 20% across energy, water, and blah, blah, blah. They've just said, this is what I do. I think it's relevant. And then you've got your call to action there. And again, if you think this is an example message for a developer, thinking about what it is that that developer is working on a daily basis, it's the new development. So making it relevant to the person that you are reaching out to. I've got another example of a message to an ESG lead. So I saw you speak at the sustainability event last week and was interested in discussing your sustainability strategy with you. You mentioned that company X has set targets to reach net zero by 2040. Do you have an approach defined yet for your buildings to meet this target? I work on a green building program called Edge, developed by the World Bank to accelerate the number of green buildings globally. Edge offers a quantifiable, standardized, and comparable and scalable way to certify green buildings. I'd welcome the opportunity for you to introduce you to Edge, and as it could be a valuable tool to help you meet your ambitious goals. would you be interested in setting a meeting to discuss this further? Again, you've got that personal link. You saw them at the sustainability event, even if you saw them post about it on LinkedIn, and you sort of understand what they were talking about. Then again, you kind of understand the challenge of the client. They've set a target to reach net zero by 2040. Do they have that approach defined yet? Again, using that as a question is a really good way to sort of, okay, he might not be interested in Edge, but he might still reply to your email just to answer this section of the question. Again, doing some information about Edge, but it's pretty basic. They've done a little bit more information on what Edge actually is, but they really haven't gone into too much technical detail at all. And finally, would you be interested in setting a meeting just to discuss this further? So including that call to action as well. Syntalia also here to help you with your lead generation. We have done loads of presentations across a number of topics. If you are speaking to a client and you want some inspiration for some slides, you can reach out to us. We're more than happy to share our slide decks with you. Again, one pages. We've done a load of sort of one pages on Edge and sort of basic information on the base case. You're more than welcome to use those as well. Again, looking on our websites where we have case studies. If you are speaking to a client or going into a conversation, I recommend that you prepare some relevant case studies. It might be that you haven't worked on that project, but it still makes sense to include the case study because, say, if it's a case study for a warehouse in your local region, the client or potential client will still be interested to know. And then email templates as well. We're more than happy to share those for you. So yeah, Syntalia team is here to help. We've done loads of slide decks and things like that. It makes sense to share those resources with you guys who are actually in the fields and talking to those clients. So please do reach out to us. So that is all of my slides. Thank you for sort of listening to me talk for 45 minutes. Are there any questions? I'm going to expand. You can either put your hand up or write in the Q&A.
Hi, Julia. Hi, all. We have one question from Grace, if you'd like to give that one a go. Grace has noticed that there are fees for Edge faculty and auditors on the Edge website, but nothing about Edge experts. So do you have any advice on how to come up with competitive fees for Edge expert services?
Yes. So I think because each local market is very different, the sort of fees for Edge Expert can be quite varied. But on the Edge Buildings website, if you go onto the user documents page, you scroll down, there are market reports. And you can see for some, not all markets, but some markets, they have like an average Edge Expert sort of consultancy cost for a standard building, and they do cover quite a lot of markets for that. So what I can do, if you'd like, I'll send you over the link to that page. It doesn't include all markets, but it does include sort of a range from the 3 continents, Latin America, Asia, and Africa. So that could be used as a good starting point. Second thing is that so if Syntalia is getting a quotation for a client and you provide a proposal for us, is that if your fee looks really like wild and not competitive at all, or like you're really undercharging, I will respond to your email and let you know. So that's kind of like the second way. But I will post that link. I can see Boyka, you've put in, can you post that link in the chat? I will send the link to those guides with the market rates. I'll send it in a follow-up email.
That's great. We have another question from Ehab about joining Sintali, but we can email Ehab with the details of that afterwards, I should think.
Yes. Yeah, Ehab, I can send you the sort of information on Edge Auditor accreditation, whether that's Edge Expert or Edge Auditor with another company, you can still become accredited with us. So yeah, I'll send some information out on that as well.
And then Maya's asked, are Edge Experts confined to different countries?
No. So in the Edge auditing role, there is like a certain level of confined to a local content. It's because they have now, IFC are now no longer doing remote audits. So every audit has to be in person. Edge Experts, it is possible to work in different countries. There is the Edge Expert role can be done virtually. There's no kind of sort of thing stopping you from that. What I would generally say is that you are in an advantage in your local area because you know local building codes and regulations. You're more sort of in tune with climate and building practices, sort of closer to those financial institutions to make those connections. So it does make sense to start with your local market, but I would absolutely not limit yourself just to a local context. There's nothing from a procedure point of view that limits you to a particular country or region.
That's great. I can see a few questions asking about the slides. They will be sent afterwards along with the recording for everyone. A great question about finance in Kenya there as well. Existing policy doesn't support green finance, or is in the process of doing so. How does one navigate this?
That's a really good question. To be honest, I'm not sure what the policy is in Kenya. However, Edge Buildings is really prominent in Kenya. There are a lot of Edge certified properties. What I can do is I can take a little look on the Edge website and sort of have a look at sort of local support and why there is an uptake of Edge in Kenya. My other sort of, and I can send you an email following that as well. My other thing is that green finance is really important and it is an influential factor into why a lot of projects go with Edge, but it's not the only factor. So again, thinking about the client mindset, what are the issues that the client is going through and whether Edge provides a solution to that. So thinking about the other benefit of Edge to particular clients and then sort of getting more information as well as sort of framing your conversations on the other points as well. So I'll take a look at specifically in that region, sort of what's going on. But generally, I would say if there's less green finance, it might be that there's sort of international financing that they can still access, but also reframing the conversation on what are the other benefits of clients.
And a question just come in. Are there any green financing or loans based on Islamic finance system? You know of any, Julia?
Again, I'm not sure. We do have projects in Islamic countries, and we are seeing a growth in those regions. But what I can do as well is send the list of banks that are working on green financing for Edge in the follow-up email as well. So then you've got that list.
Okay. Roxanne would also like to obtain the information that Ehab is getting. Is there anyone else who would like to get that information? Do let us know, and we can get that sent across on how to join Sintali. Any
Yes.
other questions? Yeah, so the presentation slides will be sent along with the recording, and these can also be accessed via our forum as well, where all our previous webinars are posted.
Yeah, exactly. And you can always reply to the email that I send out later today. We've got like a couple of minutes. My final sort of call to action is that this webinar was offered as part of our Edge Expert Network. So we launched this at the start of this year, with the aim of providing more support for Edge experts. So we run bi-monthly sales trainings. You can join our WhatsApp group chat for potential projects. We also, as Andy mentioned, have a forum to post sort of questions for the wider community about Edge. And as well, sort of you can work with us and get competitive fees for your clients. I'll send the link to join the Edge Network if you're not already part of that. Again, in the long follow-up email that I'm going to send, I'll send that over. And as we have newly launched this Edge Expert Network, after I end the webinar, there will be a survey for you to complete. You guys are all Edge experts, you're speaking to clients, you're building your business. Feedback is really important so we can provide more sessions for you guys and sort of help you in the support that you need. So please do fill out the survey at the end of the webinar. Please be honest, so we can sort of improve the sessions that we run for you as well. So yeah, final plug before I let you go. I think that's all the questions. I can see other people also wanting information on how to join the Sintali auditor, but I can download this Q&A afterwards and make sure everyone has their questions. Any other questions, Andy, that you can see?
Let's have a quick look. So how can I provide an offer or quotation to Sintali clients as an Edge expert?
Yeah, so any opportunities that Sintali gets for projects, we put in our WhatsApp group chat. We ask Edge auditors or Edge experts to prepare a proposal, and then we send those to the client. So typically sometimes we get like 10 to 15 proposals for one client. Where that is the case, we'll select 4 or 5 based on like proximity to project location, language requirements, experience, and that sort of thing. But the key is to join the Edge network, and then you can be added to our WhatsApp group chat.
And sort of following on from that as well, how can clients reach us for support in creating proposals and the market leads that have been explained in this webinar?
Or can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah. How can clients reach Sintali for support on creating proposals and market leads that were explained in this webinar? What's the best email?
Yes. So the best email to use is sales@sintali.com, and that comes through to me and Andy, so then we can help you respond to those queries as well. So sales@sintali.com is the best one to use for anything in terms of proposals, quotations, pricing, that kind of thing, contracts. If you use sales@sintali.com, you can go forward with that.
Okay, I think that's most of the questions answered. If there is anything missed, we will go back through them. But I think that's
I can see one more from Gregory that I'll answer, and then I think we'll call it a day.
yeah.
So Gregory, you asked, why does it appear that this Edge business is active predominantly in the 3 continents that you mentioned a while ago? So there's a couple of reasons. In Western and Eastern Europe, Lead and Bream are really key players in the market, same with North America. So the sort of presence of those green building standards has made Edge we have a lot of projects in Middle East and in Western and Eastern Europe. It's just the competition is so much harder. The second reason is that Edge was created by IFC World Bank. IFC World Bank has target countries that they've been doing a lot of investment and markets research in, and that is where there has been more Edge projects. So that is another reason as well. So it's like competition between other green building standards is less in those regions, and also drivers through IFC market growth, green financing is higher in Latin America, Asia and Africa. So that is why. However, Sintali's sort of portfolio of buildings, our largest portfolios have been in Europe. So there's still a lot going on, but it's those external market factors that are higher in other regions compared to Western and Eastern Europe, but they are still growing. As I said, we've partnered with a UK bank. We're getting a really nice UK pipeline. There's a lot going on in the sort of retail sector in Western and Eastern Europe. So things are growing in all markets, I would say, but it's just with the extra drivers where there's more growth compared to other markets as well. Okay, I will answer any other questions that haven't been answered. I'll send over all of the links. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Andy, for helping me with the questions. And yes, anything else, you can reach out to us via email, and have a lovely rest of your day.